Hi, Ivonne. How are you? Oh, you're on mute. Should be bottom left.
There you go. Okay.
Okay.
Now I see it. Okay. I am just checking the, okay.
Oh, how cute. Is that Mick?
Oh, so it says that I can share the screen, but I cannot.
You're
Can you see my
sharing it
screen?
right now. We can see it.
Okay, excellent. That's what I wanted to. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. So we'll start in 5 minutes so we can have a chance for everybody to join in.
Okay.
Okay.
Yvonne, don't forget to press record once the class starts.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Okay. Let me see. Let me go back. Record once the class. Okay. It says stop video, so probably it's already doing it. Yeah, I think it's already doing it. So, okay. Yeah, I think it's already recording. Okay. Is that better? Okay. All right. Oh, I see you. This is Chelsea. It says KW Campbell front desk. Okay. Excellent. Octavio with Mickey. So we'll give a few minutes for everybody to join in. have to remember. Okay, so I think we are ready to start. Welcome everyone. My name is Ivonne Valdes, and we are covering today the shift class 11 in terms of distress properties. So the class is gonna last until 12:30, so we have 90 minutes. And before we start, I would like to go through some basic housekeeping items, and one of them would be if you can please share video. That would be the best way. That's the best way to be engaged. And this is a lot of information, so hopefully everybody can share video. Okay, and the other one is if you can please turn off your phone or at least put it on the mute setting. That would be the best way, so everybody can be engaged during the presentation. Regarding questions, what I would like to do is I would like to answer questions as they arise. So you can raise your hand, you can type on the chat, and then we'll go over the question and the answer during the process. And then at the end, we can have additional questions open to everyone. Okay. So thank you so much for joining. Again, my name is Ivonne Valdes. This is the distress property class. And on this specific class, we are supposed to cover REO'S. However, I think it would be best for everybody's time and skill sets to go over REO'S as well as short sales. Okay. I'm going to go over the timeline, over the job descriptions, and everything that is related to REOs as opposed to traditional sales, and also short sales in terms of business opportunities and market shifts. How can you be better prepared in order to take advantage of the market changes? Okay. So again, my name is Ivonne Valdes. One of the reasons I decided to do this class is because I have some background experience with REOs. Back in 2007, I started handling REOs and short sales. I was handling REOs from end of 2007 until early 2013. So that was a long time, 5 years. And we were able to solve hundreds of REOs during that period. We started with 3 people, and then we had a large team, more than 10 people working. And I'm going to go over the reasons why is that, what that is necessary, or what is the best model to handle REOs, because the job description of an REO agent is very, very different to a traditional listing agent. So we're going to go through the differences, through the job descriptions, through the workflow of REO agent, and then also through the specific qualifications and the basic process for short sales. Any questions so far? No, okay, excellent. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, everybody can hear? All right, you can nod and then I'll see the screens, excellent. Okay, so distress sales are basically any type of sale where there's a hardship on the seller side, okay? In this case, the hardship is non-payment of the mortgage, and the 2 possibilities that we're gonna cover is short sales and REOs. So REO stands for real estate owned. A lot of people, they immediately associated with bank owned, and it's somehow a synonym. However, not all REOs are bank owned. Some of them have been bought by a third party. So the term is a little more broad. Real estate owned, and when it says owned, means owned by a corporation. So sometimes the properties, they are in default, the lender holds a note, they decide to sell it as a group of loans, as a group of distressed loans or loans in default to a third party. And usually those companies, they also function just as banks. And when I was listing REOs, probably most of my clients were direct lenders like Wachovia, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, US Bank. However, we were also working with a lot of the third parties, companies like Condor Corporation. So they buy hundreds and hundreds of loans that are in default, and they usually pay cents on the dollar, and their job is to make money. And sometimes they buy pools of properties at 40, 50 cents on the dollar, maybe even lower, and they lose on some loans, they make money on some other loans. So as anything, this is a numbers game, and we're going to go over the process. So everybody has their printouts, or everybody has access to the handout for this class? No? Okay. So we are going to go over the most important information. And if you don't have the handouts, that's going to be okay.
So are you going to be able to share with the chat your handouts so I can download on my computer?
Yeah, if you don't have it at this point, I think that would be a distraction. So we're going to go over the most important points via screen share. The handout is around 100 pages. Okay, so if I share the handout, I believe that people are going to go just scrambling through the pages, and they are not going to have all their attention to the presentation. So it's okay. Again, I will be able to share the handout at the end, so you can revisit and you can go over the details that we're not going to be covering today. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay. With our email to my office in Santa Cruz, we didn't receive any download this or class materials link.
Okay.
Just letting you know.
Yeah. Usually what they do is just post the invitation, and I don't know why you don't
just
have
invitation, just the link. I don't have
Yes.
anything else.
right? So usually it's basically by request only. Me being the instructor, I had to request the instructional material. So it's perfectly okay. Don't worry if you don't have the handout. If you already have it, you can have it on your side. I have it right here next to me. So don't worry, okay? If you don't have the handout, don't worry. We'll cover almost everything in the handout. And then some, because again, on the handout that I was given, the short sale part is not included. And I think that's the most important one, okay? In terms of business opportunity. All right, so welcome, people are still joining. So we are gonna start with this screenshot that I have here, which is the timeline specifically for California, okay? This is super important that you are familiar with this. Everything revolves around this timeline. So in California, we have judicial and non-judicial foreclosure. With REO'S, if once the market changes and we are back with bank-owned properties, as I'm sure it'll happen eventually, then you need to be familiar with this, and you are probably going to be working with asset managers that are, in the East Coast or Southern California, etc. So they are handling a typical asset manager or REO manager. They handle hundreds of properties in different states. So they typically rely on leasing agents to tell them, okay, this is what we need to do. Obviously, there's a team of lawyers involved and there's a team of asset preservation companies involved. But in general, they will assume that you know these basics before they talk to you. So again, step number one, notice of default. So here in California, notice of default is an official document that is filed with the county. And that happens at any time after a homeowner is in default, meaning they haven't sent the payment according to the terms of their mortgage. So even 30 days after somebody doesn't make the mortgage payment, the lender would technically have the right to file a notice of default. Now, the date when the NOD, as they are called, is filed largely depends on the policies that this specific lender has. We usually see notices of default 30, 60, even 90 days after somebody has been missing the payments. They usually let it go if it's 1 month. And then after 2 months, they start calling you, they find out what is the problem, and then they file the notice of default. The notice of default is very important because it's the first step towards the foreclosure process. If a borrower misses a payment and then the lender doesn't file a notice of default, then they cannot, basically they don't have the possibility of doing a foreclosure, because it's a very important two-step process. Those are the most important. So notice of default filed, and then the homeowner gets a notification on their paper mail saying a notice of default has been filed on your behalf, and this is the first step towards foreclosure. So at that point, the homeowner has a possibility of negotiating with the lender if there's a problem, health problem, job issue, or something else. Sometimes they can negotiate a forbearance, meaning 2, 3, 6 months where they are not going to be making payments, and the lender is basically going to be waiting for them without moving forward with the foreclosure process. The forbearance process at the beginning of the last REO wave, it was not really very easy to do. Right now, lenders are more open and more prepared. As a matter of fact, due to COVID, a lot of people were able to negotiate forbearances. So the way a forbearance works is it gives you some time to get your affairs in order. And if you have a job loss, probably getting another job. During COVID, millions of people entered into forbearances. And what it means is, let's say that your payment is $3,000 per month. So if you are in a forbearance, you are 3 times 6, $18,000 behind. And typically those $18,000 plus some additional fees are sent to the back, meaning they are added to the mortgage balance that you have, and you're still supposed to pay it. It's just a matter of a pause in the payments. Any questions so far? Okay, so notice of default, again, anytime after somebody is in default. And in some cases, the lenders can decide to wait for 6 months, a year. We saw some cases even where the lenders didn't file a notice of default for 2 years, okay? And somebody was not making the payments. Then the second step that we see here is a notice of trustee sale. It's an NOT, and that is the most important document, okay? In this case, is typically filed 3 months after the notice of default has been filed. Sometimes it's a little more than that, but the notice of trustee sale is basically the official confirmation that because the homeowner has not been able to make the payments, the lender is going to move forward with the actual foreclosure. And as I mentioned, here in California, we have judicial and non-judicial foreclosure process. 99% of the foreclosures in California are non-judicial, which means it's a simplified process, and they don't have to go to court. The difference between judicial and non-judicial is the fees are lower, is easier. There's no courts per se involved. And the important thing about the notice of trustee sale is there's 2 or 3 loans, you know, especially back in the day when they were very creative for some financing. It was very common for people to have 2 and even 3 and even 4 liens on their property. So when there's a trustee sale, whoever files the notice of trustee sale, which typically is the first lender, then the second and the third and the fourth liens are extinguished, okay? So if somebody has a line of credit or they requested another loan or any other type of loan that was acquired after the original loan, which is the first, let's say that there's 2 loans. In some cases, people were doing 100% financing. So the first loan was an 80% loan. The second loan was a 20% loan. So the 20% loan comes in second position, and the position is very important because if there is a foreclosure, the first lien holder gets the money, okay? And if there's anything left over, then it goes to the second, and then if anything goes, anything is left over, it goes to the third. But in reality, almost always, once they do a foreclosure, there's barely enough money to pay for the first, and then the second and the third loans are completely extinguished, okay? So the trustee sale, the NOT, is filed 21 days before the auction. And the auction is basically here in San Jose, for example, is held at the county steps. And that's where somebody goes and tries to bid for the loan for the property. So let's say that somebody has a loan with Bank of America. Bank of America files a notice of trustee sale. The first loan, let's say that it was, you know, $700,000. So at the auction, the lender, in this case, Bank of America, they set a specific number where the auction is going to start, which is the minimum. And let's say it's 700,000. So if somebody goes there and bids anything over 700,000, 701,000, they basically get the property. And in this case, the lender basically relinquishes the property. There's a trustee's deed that goes to the highest bidder. And this highest bidder at the auction, they are cash only. Okay, the process at the auction is, during 30 minutes, 45 minutes, they auction off, dozens of properties. In some cases, it's a very fast process. It's limited to only very, very seasoned investors. In some cases, people don't realize this, but there's situations where somebody buys a second loan. And when they do that, basically the first lien holder is still around. And I've seen cases where investors that were naive or they didn't do enough research. They bought a property, they paid, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars thinking that they were buying a property. And in reality, they were just buying the second loan, meaning they still have to pay the first lien holder if they wanted to be able to sell the property. So a lot of people during these market shifts, they made a lot of money, and a lot of people, they lost a lot of money. So just for you to know. So at the auction, if there's no highest cash bidder at the core steps, then the title of the property typically goes back to the lender. Okay. In some cases, it's postponed. A homeowner in default, they are able to postpone the auction up to the last minute. Sometimes it's done through a negotiation process. Sometimes, you know, the last resource that people sometimes do is file for bankruptcy. And we saw cases where the auction was going to be held at, let's say, 11 a.m. and somebody was able to file for bankruptcy, you know, 1 hour before. And by doing that, they are able to stop the auction and buy more time. So we saw that happening quite often, especially after the second and the third year of the REO wave. The other two possibilities is that it's canceled. Okay, so canceled meaning we don't have a new date. That happens sometimes when they hire an attorney and they find that there's some situations where the filing was not done correctly or some missing documents, and they decide to cancel. And the other, this one, the sold to third party, is the case where I was saying some loans are sold in bulk to a third party, and their business is just to make as much money as possible because they pay you know, cents on the dollar. And these are large companies that buy hundreds of loans sight unseen. The only information that they have is, you know, the property address, the balance. And sometimes one of the possibilities for you to list REO properties is to hear from these asset management companies. For example, we used to have a client in Orange County, and they would call us, okay, and they would give us a list of 10, 15 properties that they were considering acquiring through a pool of defaulted loans. And they wanted us to give them an opinion regarding the price so they could know how high they should be. So this pool of loans, they are offered to different investors and they are sold to the highest bidder. So these investors, their job during the pre-foreclosure process is to assess what is going to be the market value the day that the properties are actually foreclosed. And, you know, if they have to bid, you know, 40 cents of the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar, etc. So your job as an REO agent is to give them an accurate valuation, especially when the market is going down, the prices are going down, they are going to wait for your recommendation, price recommendation, and so they can decide how much can they bid on a specific loan. Okay, so let's see, you can record the meeting. Okay. Okay, host, okay, I'm looking at the comments right now. So they are asking, okay, material attached. Okay, they are sending the material. But again, my recommendation would be to not look at the material at this point because it's a lot of information and then it's going to be a little more complicated. So now that we saw this timeline, which is the basic timeline for California non-judicial foreclosure process, I would like to make a quick pause and find out if you have any questions.
I have a question, Ivonne.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Denise.
Hello, Denise.
Hi. Anyway, you mentioned that about 90 whatever % of the foreclosures are non-judicial in California?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. And that
Yeah,
means that
probably.
they, go ahead.
Yeah, probably I would say 99%. It's
Mhm.
very seldom when we see a lender doing a judicial foreclosure.
Mhm.
And it's a more aggressive type of collection. And in some cases, there's a lot of cost that is the responsibility of the homeowner. And sometimes they do it when they see fraud, when they see that they
Oh.
were trying to do something like really bad. Otherwise, they usually go through the non-judicial foreclosure. In other states, there's only one way to do foreclosures. And there's also different timelines. And there's also, in some states, especially in the East Coast, they, even after somebody buys a property through a foreclosure process, the homeowner has the possibility of reacquiring the property. So that's very complicated. That doesn't happen here in California. So
Mhm.
we are not going to cover that specifically.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
All right. So we are going to talk a little bit about what happened last time. I don't know how long you've been licensed, but you know, the last time that we had this wave of REOs was back in 2007. From 2003 until 2007, a lot of people got 100% loans with, you know, no down payment, and a lot of them were doing interest only, or even they were having what they called teaser rates. Let's say that the cost of getting the loan at that point was, you know, 5%, 6%, for example. So these teaser loans, just to entice people to buy properties, they would have, you know, 1.5%, 2%. So people were very excited because they were, oh my God, this house is $600,000 and my payment is only going to be $1,200. So a lot of people that were not prepared to have this responsibility acquire properties. And that's what one of the reasons this situation happened. As you know, there's waves of REOs, so the market goes up and then it goes down. And when it goes down, we see foreclosures happening. The last wave before this one was late 1990s, okay? And that was different, that was shorter, but this last REO wave that we saw was the worst ever. And as Gary Keller mentions, it's a perfect storm. It happened not only because of the employment and the cost of money and the lenders that were, you know, having trouble, all the Wall Street issues that we saw happening, you know, big companies failing and banks, you know, in really difficult situations where they folded. And for example, Wachovia, one of the lenders that we used to work with, they basically had such a huge portfolio of defaulted loans that they were not able to handle them, and they basically, you know, lost the possibility of lending money, which is any bank's business. So in that specific case, their portfolio was transferred over to Wells Fargo. Okay, so Wells Fargo got these defaulted loans. I don't think they did it because it was what they wanted to do. I think this was a very, very, a decision taken very, very high up in the government in order to avoid, you know, further financial meltdown. So they did it because they had to do it. Otherwise, we've seen even worse consequences during the last REO. So in a regular REO wave, there's always people that lose their jobs or that they have very high health expenses, divorce. Those are typical reasons why people are forced to go into the foreclosure process. Last time, again, you know, end of 2007, 2008, that's when the lender started seeing a higher rate of default. The cost of money increased. The lenders started tightening the rules because, you know, right before 2006 and even beginning of 2007, anybody could get a loan with very little money down. There were no docs, and meaning people didn't even have to prove that they have enough income. And that's why this last wave happened. In my experience, I saw a lot of people going through foreclosures or short sales that were not really, supposed to do them. We saw a lot of herd mentality here in San Jose. There were some streets here specifically in East San Jose where you were driving through the streets and there were signs in most of the properties. So the truth is that a lot of those homeowners went through the foreclosure because they were not able to make the payments. But it is also true that a lot of people were able to make the payments, and they bought the idea that it was in their best interest to stop making the payments. And in some cases, there were, some illegal companies or paralegals convincing them, oh, don't worry, if you stop making the payments, we will be able to lower your balance. Your property that you bought at, $650,000 is worth only $400,000. So don't make the payments and then we'll figure it out. So those situations, a large percentage of the homeowners that we dealt with were actually able to make the payments, and they were just doing strategic decisions not to make the payments. It didn't turn out very well, as we know, but it happened a lot, especially in this area. So the lenders, when there's a file in default, they usually ask the owner, why are they not making the payments? And in some cases, a lot of these homeowners, they said, oh, because my property value has gone down. So it's very clear that the typical lender is not going to cooperate when somebody says that, because that means that they are able to make the payment, and the value of the property going up or down is not a reason for them to stop making payments. So if you're working with a homeowner that is going to be doing a short sale, the interview process, you have to walk through the process with them, because if they provide this type of answers, the cooperation from the lender is going to be very low or even non-existence.
I have a question right there.
Sure.
So when you say if lender hears, oh, because my houses doesn't worth that much anymore, so I'm not paying money, and lender doesn't show mercy for those homeowners because it's just, they are just trying to play smart. But my question is, if there are some homeowners, if they lose the job or they have a high health care payment or some really tragic life experience happen to them, does lender show mercy for those homeowners?
Yes, they do. Most of the time, the lenders learned a lot, okay? At the beginning of the last REO wave, it was hard because these lenders were not prepared to handle the hundreds and thousands, and in some cases, millions of defaults. So their level of cooperation was not 100%. And the main reason is not because they didn't want, it's because they were not prepared to handle such many requests. But after they were able to get their act together, yes, the answer is yes. Most lenders were able to cooperate with homeowners. And from the lender point of view, their intention is always to minimize the loss, okay? So they are not going to be, the lenders basically, they don't have emotions. And when somebody says, oh, my house is not worth that much, they basically put the file aside and then try to focus on other homeowners that actually need help. They will, they will leave this homeowner basically figure it out. And if they continue not making payments, then they will find a way. And usually the way to resolve this issue is going to be through foreclosure process. Before we talk about the foreclosures and the short sales, I would like to know in general, if you can put that on the chat, how long have you been licensed? So I can have an idea about, if you were already doing business last time when this happened.
I was here in 2007 when that wave happens, but I didn't really know what was going on. So what you are seeing right now with your talk, my understanding is because COVID, a lot of people lost their jobs, income, they lost most of their incomes if they didn't lose the job, or, they lost a person from their family who was contributing a lot for the family income. So my understanding is you are expecting another wave this year, next year, somewhere in close future, right? That sounds like that, like you sound like this. Is that correct?
Yes. So the reason why this class is on the shift curriculum is because this is a business opportunity for us agents. So the truth is, you're right, REOs happen every year, even in a perfect economy. There's REOs because there's always issues regarding, job loss or health issues that happen to people, and then those properties are sold through the foreclosure process. However, it would be safe to say that, for example, last year here in San Jose, we have, I would say, no more than 20, 25 REOs in the whole county. So it really doesn't happen a lot. And the reason it doesn't happen a lot is because in order for the homeowner to actually go through the foreclosure process, typically it has to have some loss of equity. So with the appreciation that we've seen during the last 5 years or even more, most people, even if they lose their jobs, they are in a good position, meaning let's say that the property is worth $1 million, but because of the raise in the average equity, if a property is worth $1 million, it's very common to see that the first loan is probably 400, 500, 600. So meaning they have hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity, and with those, with that money, they typically are able to avoid the process by either refinancing or requesting forbearance or getting a line of credit or some type of loan where they are able to make the payments during a specific, 6 months, 3 months, 9 months period. And then they are able to, let's say, find another job or catch up with the payments. So the foreclosures, they don't happen very often. Let's say 2016, 17, 18, we have a lot of people calling us saying, oh, I would like to buy an REO property because they think that they are going to get a really good deal. The truth is we see notice of defaults being filed every month, but I would say less than 9 out of 10 of the notice of defaults that are filed actually go into foreclosure. Sometimes it's just a temporary job loss or some situation that prevents people from making the payments. But the large majority of these people are able to find a solution instead of going through the foreclosure process. And when we say short sale versus REO from the homeowner perspective, it's very important that you as the real estate agent know the difference between both of them in terms of the homeowner. For a homeowner, it's always better if they are not able to make the payments and they lost their job and it's really long-term, the possibility of keeping the house, making the payments is very low. Then the best thing that they could do if they are not able to negotiate a forbearance or loan modification with the lender, which also happened a lot, then the best way to resolve the issue is to do a short sale. So a short sale in broad terms is negotiating with the lien holders, even 1, 2, 3, 4, to tell them, hey, lender number 1, lender number 2, unfortunately, I am not able to keep making the payments on the property, and I owe you, $600,000. The market right now, my house, I bought it at $700,000, but in the market, my neighbor's house just sold for, $500,000. So I am not able to continue making the payments, and I need you to cooperate with me so I can sell the property to somebody else that is able to make the payment. So that's a negotiation process that it's done through most of the time real estate agents. So you as a real estate agent are responsible to looking at the situation of that specific homeowner and negotiating with the lender. Now, why is a short sale better than foreclosure in terms of the homeowner? Number one, because eventually the conditions change. And if a homeowner sells a property through a short sale, their credit score is not affected as terribly as a foreclosure. And then in terms of being able to buy another property, they are typically able to do that, after 2 or 3 years. So it's a temporary effect to their credit score. But after 2 or 3 years, let's say that they lost their job, the economy is getting better, their income is back up again, they are able to buy a property. Where if somebody goes through the foreclosure process, they are typically unable to get traditional finance at a reasonable rate during 6 or 7 years, similar to a bankruptcy. So the foreclosure process is more expensive for the lender, and it also more harmful for the homeowner in terms of their credit report. So, when conditions change, or if you find somebody that is in a difficult situation, the first step before, recommending them to do a short sale is to go over the balances. Short sales in this market, again, are not very common because even if somebody is not able to make the payments, the easiest way would be for you to lease the property, sell the property without even requiring the lenders to be involved. Let's say that the property is worth $1 million, the original loan was 600. There's payments that haven't been made, in the amount of 30,000. So basically, you sell the property for 1 million. You pay the first lien holder, 630, 650. If there's a second loan, you pay it off, and there's still some money left for the homeowner to go and, rent another property and get back on their feet. So not very common. I've seen only, probably 2 or 3 short sales in the last 6 months. And although it is still technically possible to do a short sale, the lenders, they don't have enough people to process this type of transactions. A short sale, as you might know, it's a very cumbersome process. In some cases, it was taking, the best case scenario, 6 months. In some cases, a year. There were some very limited situations where the lenders were able to process sales swiftly. And this happened after a couple of years of doing short sales, and some lenders were able to respond in 30 days or even less, almost like a regular sale. So that's why I would like to cover the short sales in detail, because from my point of view, a short sale is much easier to handle than an REO sale. Okay, so let's go. We're going to talk a little bit about the differences between REO and short sales. So I'm going to share my screen, and let's see, share screen. And we're going to go over the differences. Okay. Can you see that screen now? Okay. So the first column is traditional, the second is REO, the third is short sale, and the fourth is HUD. We're really not going to cover HUD a lot. It happens in very limited circumstances here in California. And because there's no real estate agents involved in the HUD process from the leasing side, that's why I'm not going to spend a lot of time covering that specific fourth column. So if you look at the traditional sale, you have a conventional loan, an FHA loan, or a VA loan. In terms of the pricing, the leasing agent, you produce a CMA, you meet with the seller, you do a listing presentation. You as a leasing agent has the responsibility of doing marketing for the property. You put it on the MLS. When there's a buyer, they send you a contract that it's basically car form. Here on the graph, it says MLS contract, but what it means is just the traditional purchase contract that the local board uses. Okay, offers, it says by MLS contract. So basically all the process that you are familiar with in terms of selling a property. Financial documents, when a buyer is ready to close, the lender sends a document, and usually you need those documents, 24 to 48. In this specific case, this course was designed in 2011. So if we needed to update this, I would say more like 72 hours, because as you know, the buyers, they have to wait 3 days for being able to send the documents back to the lender. There's a 3-day period where they review the loan documents, what they call closing disclosure. And then 3 days after that, they are able to sign at the title company. So because of this 3-day waiting period, the documents are required at the title company 72 hours in advance. The most important difference is when you do a traditional sale, you're dealing with the homeowner, and the seller has 100% decision regarding which offer they are going to take, if they are going to close, who's going to pay for what. For an REO, we see REOs happening on conventional loans. Okay, FHA and VA are a little bit different in terms of the process. So we are looking at conventional, also what they used to call portfolio loans, meaning a bank, they do the loan, and then they keep that loan in their portfolio, they service it, and it's in their balance sheet. Okay, so they have 100% decision in terms of what is going to happen with that loan in case it becomes let's say a negative asset, meaning the homeowner is not making the payments. So in terms of pricing, the bank is the one that decides the value, okay? And this is based on the listing agent BPO or an appraisal. One very, very important point about REOs is if you as a listing agent want to get into the REO game, it's super important that you learn how to do BPO. So BPOs stand for broker price opinions. And this is a document that is similar to a CMA, but is much more detailed in terms of the value of the property. So on a regular CMA, you choose 5, 6, 7, and 9 properties that are the most similar and closest to the property that you are selling. And then based on that, you recommend a sales price to the homeowner. A BPO is more detail oriented, and it's much more similar to an appraisal. I don't know if you are familiar, if you've taken some time to read through an appraisal, but an appraisal not only looks at similar properties, but they do side-by-side comparisons between the subject property and the other property that was sold nearby. So in an appraisal, let's say that you are selling a 3-bedroom 2-bath, and the neighbors sold a 3-bedroom 1.5 bath. So basically on a BPO, you are supposed to do what they are calling adjustments, where you say, okay, my subject property has 2 bathrooms, and this one that sold for X amount of money has only 1.5. So meaning my property is a little bit better. So you as the listing agent, you have to assess how much is the value that a buyer would put on a half a bedroom more. So basically 1.5 bathrooms versus 2 bathrooms, what is the difference that half bathroom, meaning full bathroom versus half bathroom has? And you have to itemize those differences. So any major differences in terms of the property value have to be noted on a BPO in terms of square footage, age, operates, lot size, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, pool, all those observations that you as a listing agent are able to do on the property. You are supposed to account those differences because a BPO is a document that the asset managers are going to rely upon for them to price a property or bid on a pool of defaulted loans. So if you say that the property is worth, you know, 500,000, and then they buy the property thinking that they will be able to sell it for 500,000, and the property ends up selling for 400,000, the likelihood of you getting more assignments from that specific lender is very, very low. So in terms of doing BPOs, there's the responsibility on the leasing agent side to be able to propose a value, come up with a value that is pretty accurate. Banks, they expect you to be able to price the properties within 5% of the final sales price. And this is one of the reasons in the REO market, you see a handful of agents handling, dozens and dozens of properties where other agents, they don't have any REO business. So talking about the last sale, the last wave, there were 10,000 agents here in Santa Clara County, and active agents doing REOs, we were, I would say, less than 100. So that gives you an idea. It's a whole different business. I'm gonna be able to go over the pros and the cons, so you can decide next time this happens if this is a business that you want to pursue or not. So we were just elaborating in terms of BPOs. If you want to be able to learn to do a BPO, there's specific certifications that are offered for you so you can learn how to do a BPO. If you look at BPO side by side with an appraisal, it's almost the same information. Obviously, we cannot call it an appraisal because we don't have an appraisal license, but a BPO is much more extensive in terms of documents, in terms of time that it takes for you to do it, much more detailed than a CMA, okay? So going back to the REO's marketing, it says bank direct marketing. In reality, it's the leasing agent, the one that does the marketing. In some very limited situations, the lenders, they have portals where they offer, they list the properties. They show the properties that they have available on the market, but it's very limited information. So most of the responsibility is actually the listing agent in terms of marketing the property. So when we say marketing, part of the marketing process that we do for traditional sales is we meet with the seller and we do a listing presentation. So with the REO, there's no listing presentation, there's only BPOs, and most of the REO assignments are done based on a relationship that you already generated with the asset manager. Most of those relationships are, long-term. And again, the most important document that you're going to generate if you're doing an REO is BPOs, because they will check your performance. They will do audits. And this is one of the most important, the easiest one to assess, because they will see how accurate your sales prediction is. Back in 2010, 11, one of the things that I remember, the higher ups at these lenders, in this case, Wells Fargo Bank, they were telling us, Ivonne, I'm not gonna judge your BPO based on the current prices. I want you to tell me not how much the property is worth right now. I want you to tell me how much is this property want to be selling for in 3 months when the property is sold. So you have to do some forecasting. It's a difficult process, but once you get a hold of it, you are able to produce BPOs that are accurate. And my recommendation would be, if you're interested, try to find out with the association what are the certifications that they have for brokers price opinions. There's 2 or 3, and all of them are important. There's one that has certifications for distressed sales, meaning REOs. They teach you how to do BPOs and also short sales. So I would recommend that if you're interested, you look into that sooner rather than later. Okay, in terms of the contract, REOs are different. They usually accept MLS contracts when the properties are marketed through the MLS, but once an offer is accepted, there's 2 things that can happen, okay? Number 1, they send a bank addendum where basically they delete a lot of the clauses that a buyer has, all the things that the buyer is able to do on a traditional sale. The lenders, they want to simplify the process, and a lot of those buyers' rights are stripped or eliminated or diminished, because when the banks are selling properties, they want to know that the person completely understands that this is a bank-owned property and that the lender, they don't have any information about the property. The buyer is still able to do inspections, but they want to be able to handle the sale. And this is the reason why most lenders, they basically scratch the car contract, and then they have the buyer sign their own bank contract where the process is simplified and the lender has a right to say, hey, I'm not going to be able to sell you the property. If you sold new home construction, similar to that, basically, so the banks, they have the specific contracts that they use, similar to the builders' new construction contracts. So you have to be familiar with those, especially if you're going to be representing buyers, so you can explain how things work. But in general, the process is simpler and the rights of the buyers are diminished. You, as a buyer's agent for an REO, you can still do inspections again. And one of the benefits of doing representing buyers on an REO is that the lenders, they don't have feelings, okay? So once a property, an offer is accepted for a property, let's say that your buyer got the REO, it was listed at $699, your buyer got a clean contract at $700,000, the lender accepted it, then they send you the bank contract, and then you have a short period where you can do inspections. If you find that something is wrong with the property, it's very, very easy in most cases to negotiate the price down, because again, what the lender is trying to do is they are trying to get rid of the property as soon as possible. And if they see that, that you have a valid request, let's say that the buyer did an inspection and they found out that the previous homeowner basically took the copper plumbing with them, or in some cases we even saw situations where the homeowners, they were not happy and they poured some type of concrete or cement into the piping. You realize that the piping is not working as a buyer, and then you tell the lender, we did this inspection and it turns out that the plumbing is basically non-serviceable, so we need to replace it, and here's my bid from a licensed plumber to replace the plumbing lines. It's $20,000. You send it to the lender, and it's very likely that the lender will say, yes, okay, I'm willing to renegotiate the price down based on this estimate, and then you move forward with the sale. In terms of financing docs, the process is going to be similar to a traditional sale, meaning the documents, they have to be at the title company for the seller to sign, 24 to 48 hours. Having said that, there's cases, especially when you're dealing with large lenders, where the buyer is ready to close the loan, but the lender is not. And in some of these cases, it takes months, well, not months, I should say weeks, for them to be able to get ready for the closing table. We've had situations where we were representing buyers of REO properties, and then 2, 3, even 4 weeks passed, and the lender was not able to sign the closing documents. So be prepared for that. That doesn't happen very often, but usually there's a good reason for that to be happening. Sometimes they find issues with the paperwork, or there's something preventing them from being able to sign the documents. With an REO, the process is mostly centralized somewhere. Sometimes it's in a different time zone, in a different state, and the person that is actually able to sign the closing documents is responsible for signing hundreds of closing documents every day. So sometimes there's a delay because of this reason. And sometimes the buyers are affected because the seller cannot close on time, but this is something that you have to consider. So last item with REOs, acceptance. Obviously, the bank has all the decision in terms of price, in terms of closing, in terms of what they can and they cannot do. So short sales, we see short sales with all different types of loan, conventional, FHA, VA. The short sale, you also, well, not you, the lender does a BPO or an appraisal, and that is requested by the lender, typically after you as a leasing agent meet with the homeowner and then request for the lender to cooperate on a short sale. Some of the lenders, the way that they process it, they want to be involved right when you lease a property. Some of the lenders, they don't want to know until you have an offer that you're able to send the offer to them. Okay, so the marketing responsibility is, again, the leasing agent. In terms of the contract, is similar to a traditional sale where there's an MLS contract, and sometimes once the offer is accepted, there's also an addendum. You remember, if you were doing short sales back in the day, that there were some specific addenda in terms of the short sales that were added to the car contract. Basically specific conditions applying when people were doing short sales from the seller side and also from the buyer side. In some cases, the lender is going to send some documents when they do a short sale approval. Mostly is between the lender and the homeowner, and it's not something that you really have to worry if you are representing the buyer. And in terms of documents, timeline very similar to traditional on REO. And then the acceptance is done in 2 steps. So when you list a short sale, you put the property on the MLS, and then you get 1 to multiple offers, and then you sit down with the seller, just like a regular sale. And then the seller accepts the offer subject to the bank approving the short sale. So the seller has complete control about which offer they take in case there's a multiple offer situation. And then you as a leasing agent is responsible to send it to the lender, and they will calculate, okay, is this offer that we're getting reasonable in terms of price? Is this something that we can move forward? Or if it's too low, meaning if the numbers, they don't add up, and they think that by doing a foreclosure, they will be able to recoup a larger portion of the loan, then they are not going to cooperate with you. So it's important for you to know that as a leasing agent for short sales, it has to be a reasonable offer because the lender will make all these calculations. So the last column, again, we are not going to go over that because typically hot properties are marketed by housing. So there's no listing agent involved. It's a process that you might want to get involved in case you want to represent buyers. It's a little more complicated. They use specific contracts, specific portals, etc. So sometimes it's done completely online. So hot properties here in San Jose, there were not a lot. If you remember, early 2000s, there were not a lot of FHA loans happening around. If there's another REO wave, maybe there's going to be more hot properties because FHA loans, they were happening, especially now that they raised the limits on FHA loans. There's a possibility that there's going to be more FHA loans than before. Okay, so let's go back to, I think we are done with this specific chart. And I would like to make a pause and find out if there's any questions. Any questions? No? Okay.
Well, I just have a comment. So what I'm hearing is that in order to handle short sales, possibly REOs, we need to have training.
Yes. So this is the first step.
First step. Okay, thank you.
Yes, it's the first step. My suggestion is that you consider this. If there's another REO wave, what I can tell you is that regular homeowners, it was very difficult, in other words, to compete as a regular homeowner in the market when there was short sales and foreclosures. As a regular home seller, you really don't sell when this situation is happening because there's literally blood running on the streets. And the only homeowners that sell through a traditional sale are people that absolutely 100% must sell, and they have equity. But it's really hard for a homeowner to be able to digest that if their property was worth, 1.2 million the year before, now there was an REO at 800,000 right next door. So basically loss of equity, that was happening a lot. And we're gonna go through another chart that I'm gonna share with you. And this is a chart that talks about downward spiral. This happened, 2008, 2009, 2011. So last time when we started seeing short sales and bank on properties again was late 2007, 2008, the bottom of the market. So this process of these prices, less buyers and more sellers. So there was a lot of properties, contrary to what we are seeing right now, where in whole Santa Clara County, we have 500 properties for sale in the whole county. Back in the day when the REO waves happened, I remember looking at the stats and there were 5,000 properties for sale. Okay, so there were less buyers because buyers were scared, especially at the beginning. They saw prices going down, down, down. The loans were more difficult to get and there were more sellers. So a typical buyer would be very scared to buy in 2008 and 2009 because they didn't know when the prices depreciation was going to stop. So the average prices fall, then the sellers get upside down. We see short sales, the falls, foreclosure increase, REOs hit the market, average home prices fall, more sellers upside down, foreclosures. So this downward spiral happened for probably 3 years. The bottom of the market, if you look at the MLS stat, it's very clear that we saw the bottom of the market happening in March of 2009. That's where the bottom was hit. And obviously, if you were selling or buying real estate in 2009, it was very hard for the general public or even you as a real estate agent to understand that that was the bottom. So people were still very hesitant to buy properties because they were thinking that the prices were going to be continuing to go down, down, down. So it's similar to the situation that we have right now. Prices are going up and people have been waiting for the prices to hit the top of the market for 3-4 years. We've had these conversations with buyers saying, oh, I don't want to overpay, the prices are so high. People tell me that the prices are going to come down, so I better wait. And that has happened in the last 4 or 5 years. And the people that have thought that they could time the market, meaning I'm going to wait until the prices come down, the only thing that they've seen is prices are continuing to increase. And a lot of these buyers that were waiting on the fence, right now they are priced out of the market. So again, when you are right in the middle of shifts happening, it's very difficult for anybody to really understand what is the bottom of the market and what is the peak, because the only way to look at the bottom is after it has already started to appreciate. So that happened, June, July of 2009, we started seeing that loans were a little easier to get, still difficult, but a little easier than before. And there were more buyers buying for properties. Here in San Jose, one of the benchmarks that we like to use are what we call maquillons. So a maquillon is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo. There's a lot here in San Jose. There's Campbell, there's Los Gatos, there's Blossom Hill. So if you don't know what a maquillon is, it looks like a fourplex. So it's 4 units in one building. You have 2 townhome style condos on the sides. Those are 903 square feet. Then you have one on the back, which is on top of the garages. And then in front, there's a little casita style, 1 level, and all of them are 2-bedroom, 1-bath. The reason I like to use this as a benchmark is because we see maquillons all over California. They are called maquillons because the builder that used to build these, it was back in the early 1970s. They built them all over the area. So they are exactly the same with very few variations in terms of the floor plan, but it's a good way to measure the market activity, because when I started selling real estate back in 2005, the maquillons were the typical starter homes. People were buying maquillons for less than 300,000. When I started, maquillons were selling for 250, 260,000. So between 2005 and 2007, these type of properties, along with all the other properties, were appreciating every month. So a maquillon would appreciate, $5,000 every month. So from 2005 to the end of 2007, maquillons went from 250 all the way to 400,000. In Los Gatos and Campbell areas, even higher. These maquillons, you see them in Playa del Rey, in Blossom Hill, 95123. And those maquillons, when we saw the bottom of the market, these maquillons were selling for as low as 115,000. Okay, these happen on condos, 2-bedroom, 1-bath condos in North Valley. Those were the lowest prices. So from a buyer's perspective, the value of the properties, these properties, starter homes, they were sliced in half in less than 2 years. So from 400, 450, all the way down to 300, 250, 200, 150. And, in those days, we have sellers that have bought maquillons or similar properties, and they wanted to sell the properties, but it was basically almost impossible to sell, where you had a lot of foreclosures selling around for lower and lower and lower prices every month. So the bottom of the market, again, March of 2009. And then now back 2022, the lowest maquillons that we see, the same 2-bedroom, 1-bath that were sold for 100 and something in 2009, 12, 13 years later, the average maquillon is worth around 550. We've seen maquillons sold for more than 700 in the better areas like Campbell and Los Gatos. So that's just a benchmark that we like to use to see what is the prices, how have the prices been changing in the last, since the last wave. So let's try to move forward. We have
I have a
15 more.
question.
Yes,
I
yes.
have a question about this McKeown's. I need a clarification.
Yes.
So those 2-bedroom condos, McKeown's, you say, if they are selling too high, you mean next step is crush is coming?
No. I mean, what I mean is the properties are sold right now for 550, 600, 700. To tell you the truth, when is the next wave coming? The truth is, I don't know. There has to be a lot of circumstances happening at the same time for the properties to lose value. So I would have expected that during COVID, the prices would go down. Everybody was waiting for another wave to come because the economy and the job loss was widespread. The economy was not doing good, etc. But the truth is that the demand has been super high and people are still looking for properties. And in this specific case, COVID has only made property prices go up. So if somebody asks me, when is the next wave coming? The truth is, I don't know. It's not going to be as bad as the last wave, for sure. Okay, people have a lot of equity and a lot of things have to happen. I think we have an overheated market right now, and for the prices to go down, the first thing that would have to happen is obviously job loss, economy. The economy is not in good shape. However, things are still moving along because the government has injected billions and trillions of dollars into the economy, so we're still moving along. I don't think the economy is going to be the biggest factor in the next wave. I think it's going to be more basically consumer confidence or loan availability. Right now, the interest rates are starting to rise. But if you look at the long-term chart for interest rates, the average during the last 40 years has been 8%. So right now, if a buyer thinks that 3.7 is too high, the only thing that you have to do is refer them to the historical rates, because anything below 5% is still very, very affordable. Now, if the rates go 5% or above, will the conditions change? I would say yes. I think there would be less buyer and less generosity in terms of the buyers offering way over the asking price. Okay, I was just looking at a property here nearby sold by another team working for Keller Williams. So it was a property, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500, and it's located on a busy street. Having said that, the property sold 450 over asking. So one of the reasons that is happening is because obviously the buyers, they want to be able to secure a house before the interest rates go up. So yes, if the interest rates go over 5%, we might see the market situation changing, but I don't know how soon that is going to happen. So if there's no questions at this point, the only thing that I would like to do in the next 10 minutes is just give you an overview about the responsibilities of an REO agent, so you can decide if that's something that you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to go to some of the job descriptions for an REO agent. As an REO agent, you are focused on servicing the lenders, okay? And you forget about dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. The only communication that you have with the asset managers is on the phone, but mostly is online. And there's a lot of reports that you have to do as an REO agent. In addition to the BPO, you have to file marketing reports, you have to file showing reports, you have to file conditions report, you have to document how the property is being marketed, you have to document if the property is occupied or not. So usually the first thing that you do when you are listing an REO is you get a phone call from an asset manager and they tell you, hey, congratulations, you have a new listing. They send you the listing with the address, and then it's your job to decide, what is the price. Sometimes the listing agreement has a specific price based on a BPO that you sent before. but they send you that assignment the day that the property is foreclosed, meaning the day that the trustee sale happens. And the timelines for the banks are extremely important. So as a leasing agent, you're supposed to be able to respond right away. And when we say right away is if an asset manager calls you and they give you an assignment, you are supposed to go to the property right away, find out if the property is occupied or not. If it's vacant, you are responsible for rekeying the property and reporting back to the lender, saying the property is already secured, is vacant, is full of trash. You have to do a report showing all the things that have to be done before you can market the property. You are responsible for hiring a contractor that can do what they call a trash out. You are responsible for requesting the money, or I would say the budget to do the trash out. In some cases, you have to front the money to these subcontractors or contractors. Sometimes, you know, it's hundreds of dollars, sometimes it's thousands of dollars, and you do everything with the lender's permission. So in terms of responsibilities, is a much more complicated and involved process. And the reason, number one, a lot of agents, they don't want or they can't get involved with REOs is because you have to be able to afford a lot of the maintenance related issues or related to the marketing, the property, securing the property, usually rekeying the property. You have to have a locksmith that can go to meet you at the property, you know, within half an hour. That is very common. And you also have to be able to report back to the bank if the property is occupied. You have to knock on the door, and if somebody opens, it's part of your job to negotiate with the previous homeowner and give them the bad news, meaning your property has been foreclosed. I represent the new owner of the property, and my job is to find a process that works for you, where basically the previous homeowner is out of the property and the property is vacated, so you can sell the property. In some cases, the homeowners, they left before the foreclosure happened. In some cases, they are there and they don't have anywhere to move, so you have to be able to negotiate with them and communicate with the bank successfully so they can be relocated. In some cases, the lenders, they have what they call cash for keys, meaning you give the homeowners some money, you know, $1,000, $2,000, $10,000, depending on the situation. So they have some incentive to give you the keys. That's why it's called cash for keys. There's some documents that are prepared by attorneys working from the lenders, but you are responsible to negotiate with the homeowners and responsible for delivering the checks. The checks usually come from the lender, and then you have to give the checks to the homeowners in exchange to the keys. And then you have to clean the property, repair the property, remodel the property. So it's your responsibility to advise the lender once you look at the property and to find out what is the best way to market the property. In very few cases, the lenders wanted to remodel the properties at the beginning of the cycle. But as we moved, 2009, 2010, the lenders were more open to do full remodelings before marketing the properties because they were able to minimize the loss. So any decision that the lender takes in terms of the property, meaning money that you are asking them to put into the property, is basically, the decision is taken basically based upon minimizing the loss. So if you tell the bank, okay, if we fix this bathroom that is really, really in bad shape, it's going to cost us $5,000 or $10,000, but if you do that, I will be able to sell the property for $20,000 more or $30,000 more, then they typically say yes. If the difference between what they invest and what they get is not that big, they are just going to say no, just sell it as is. And then the typical buyers for this type of properties were cash investors or cash buyers, because, as you know, if a buyer wants to submit an offer on a property that is uninhabitable, it is very difficult for them to get a loan. Okay, so what I'm trying to do to say here is to give you a job description of an REO agent, so you can decide if this is a type of responsibilities that you're willing to take. Obviously, when the market shifted last time, and there were no sales, I can tell you that I was very, very lucky to be part of a large REO group that we were selling, hundreds of properties every year, because otherwise I wouldn't have had a lot of business. So in some cases, more than, this chart that we have here, fit for me or not fit for me, is a matter of paying the bills. In some cases, the REOs and the short sales are going to be 90% of the market. That's what happened last time. Will it happen again? Probably at some point. So being prepared to handle this type of market shifts is a good business decision. Now, the important thing about being an REO agent is that you understand that the process is cumbersome. You're going to be filing reports and working on different platforms for every lender. So the process in terms of administration is 90% administration, 10% marketing. Not everybody is suited to be able to do that. In my specific situation, at some point we had 3 listing agents. I was one of them. We had 3 buyers agents, and we had a bunch of staff helping us filing the documents and sending the invoices of the things that we have spent and making sure that we were reimbursed. And there were a lot of specific documents that we had to file on a timely basis. And if we didn't send those reports on time, then we have points deducted from a score, decreasing our possibility to get more assignments. So again, the REO process is definitely not something that a 1 or 2 person team can handle because of the nature of the complexity of the process. So in terms of business, I think it's much easier to approach the short sale market. And one of the reasons I think short sales are really good business decisions is because the process is more similar to a traditional sale. And then the other thing is you don't have to put money into each property. You don't have to file, dozens of reports with each property. But probably one of the best reasons why short sales, in my opinion, are easier and better is because of the commissions. In terms of REOs, is again volume. What I can tell you is that at the end of the day, once you have sold an REO, there has been so many people involved and so many processes going on that what is left in terms of profit is very, very small. Okay, it's not, if I was able to get, close to 1% after everything was said and done, I was really lucky. In reality, my commission checks were closer to 0.5% out of the sales price, and my overhead was very, very high because of the staff. So having said that, a short sale is more similar. And then most of the lenders, they are willing to pay full commission when you do a short sale. It is very common for the short sale agent to get a bigger portion of the commission. So let's say if the lender approves 5% or 6% commission, you as a listing agent can cooperate with the buyers 2% or 2.5%, and then you're able to keep 3 or 3.5%. In some cases, the agents that were marketing short sales, they would say commission to be split. Because in some cases, especially at the beginning, the lenders were authorizing below average commission, meaning 4%. So if you were offering 2.5% or 3% to the buyer's agent, and at the end of the day, the lender only approved a full 4% commission, you were left, with 1 or 1.5%. So that's one of the reasons some of the leasing agents were offering only to split the commission. But as the short sales increased, there was a lot of pressure from the government and from the associations to keep the commissions out of the negotiation process, meaning we as leasing agents were doing, hard work negotiating the loans. And it was a very long process. So at the end of the day, the leasing agents, they deserve to be paid. And most of the large lenders were offering full commissions in almost all cases. So as a leasing agent, if you were smart, you would keep more than half of the commission, meaning 3.5%, because the most efficient job, I would say, structure or team structure for short sales is for you to talk to the homeowners, negotiate with the homeowners, but the negotiation process in terms of paperwork back and forth with the bank, I was using an assistant that was her job 100%. So she knew what to do. She had all the contacts. She had been processing short sales with different lenders, and I would pay her a specific fee based on closed files. So she was incentivized to be able to negotiate successfully and close the deals. And the ones that we tried and we were not able to close, I was not paid, the buyer agents was not paid, and she was not paid, just like a regular sale. So again, if you are getting ready for the next cycle, consider short sales as an easier job opportunity. I'm not trying to discourage anybody to do REOs, but having gone through the process, I don't know if I personally would do it again, because it is high cost, high stress level, high level of paperwork. And what I enjoy about selling real estate is, dealing with people and going out and looking at properties. And, if I tell you the stories of REOs, which I might be able to do another day because our time is over, but I can tell you that it was very often where I would open the door and there were hundreds of cockroaches, or, in some cases, tons of debris, or, people, squatters living at the property. So it's a process that is not easy. And in some cases, especially when you go with the sheriff to do the evictions, it's not an easy process. Sometimes, guns are drawn, and it's not something that is suitable for the faint of heart. And again, not trying to scare you, just to give you my own personal point of view, so you can decide if you want to look closer into the possibility of creating a team for REO sales, or if you are more comfortable handling short sales of representing buyers. So having said that, our time is over. I would be open if there's any questions before we end the class today. Any questions?
I just want to thank you for all this information. You are so competent and experienced, and I learned so much just in this session today. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate your comments. Thank you again.
Hi. Thank you so much
Hi.
for your presentation. So much information to grasp. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. So again, I try to cover both REOs and short sales because I think it's everybody's best interest. So feel free to go over the handout that they just shared with you. And if you have specific questions, feel free to contact. I work with my husband, Octavio. We are at the Silicon Valley, meaning Campbell office. And if you have any specific questions about the courses of about short sales or REOs, feel free to contact us, okay? We'll be happy to help you with any questions.
Thank you. Would you send this recording and your contact in the text? That would be
Yes.
really good.
Yes, yes. I will stop the video and then I will do my best to save it and then I'll send it to Chelsea so she can share it with everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that. And thank you again for your time. Hopefully, it was a lot of information, but hopefully you got the idea about distress sales.
Yes.
All right. Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, turn off cell phone. Okay, I need your help, Octavio. How do I stop the recording? Is it recording?
So you're not the host?
Recording, dice. Déjame si leo. Bueno, pues ya que hablaron ellos. Ya te puedes desconectar.
Yo me desconecté, pero necesitas ver quién quedó como host.
Ya lo sé, pues no fuimos nosotros.